Nicks and bruises, we are back. Shout out to the chat. Yo, Black is time. I got my girl, the queen, in the building.
Salute.
Peace, queen.
How are
Couple
you?
things. I'm good. I'm good. Monday, day off. Podcast day. Always fun. It's
Basically,
been a quiet week or so. I think the
it
Knicks
has
signed.
been.
I don't even know the gentleman's name. They signed. They did sign somebody to a exhibition 10 contract.
Oh, you talking
Um,
about O'Keefe?
Okiki.
Okiki. Yeah,
Okiki.
but they
Yep. Yep.
also signed their rookie McCullough today.
Oh, did they?
They did to a two-way.
Two-way, okay.
To a
All
two-way.
right. I assume both of those guys will be in the G League. You know what I mean? I don't foresee them
Mhm.
you know making the main team. I mean, we haven't spoke on McCullough at all. If you want to kind of maybe start there. Any thoughts on him? I know he had the Josh Hart comparison, you know,
Yeah.
coming into the draft, which is always a good thing. Can't you could always use two Josh Harts on the team.
Yeah. Salute to the chat, Malik. Man, I don't know much about him other than what I've read, and I've watched some clips of him. So this is what I have written down. All Big 12 first team last season. The season before that, he was all defensive team and all Big 12 third team. And he signs a two-way contract. So when I was watching the clips, he did remind me of Josh Hart in the sense of ripping the rebound, getting the rebound, and pushing,
Mm-hmm.
and either finishing or finding somebody else to score. So that's something that they have in common. And apparently, he's one of those do-it-all type players. 11 points, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.6 steals. Not a great shooter if we're going by his career averages of just
Mm-hmm.
44% from the field and 31% from three. Yeah, that sounds like
It
that sounds
sounds like a
like hard.
carbon copy. I watched a lot of film on him recently, and another huge Josh Hart comparison was that straight line drive. You know what I mean? He's not a guy that's gonna go left to right. You
Right,
know what I mean? Like he's gonna push, but he's gonna push straight line to the basket,
right,
which
right.
again is just like Josh Hart. You know what I mean? Like, um, but yeah, man, kudos to him. I'm glad he signed the contract. Um, I don't, like I said, I don't foresee him playing any minutes, even though it is a two-way contract, unless it's because of multiple injuries. You know what I mean? To kind
Right.
of get into the rotation, and also unless there's like a huge 3-for-1, 4-for-2 trade where now we gotta bring guys up. But yeah,
I
man, I
will
would have
say,
loved to have seen them in the summer league though.
me too. They did say that the beginning of the college season, over the first, I think, 1 or 2.5 months, he was playing his best brand of basketball, and there was a thought that whoever drafted him, it would be a steal for them. So, hopefully the Knicks got a few steals in Huckporty, him, and Kolick.
Yeah, man, that's one thing you gotta give this front office credit about. Um, they're under the radar drafting. You know what I mean? It's been superb. Second round, especially.
Mhm.
Um, especially second round, especially. But what I want to talk about today is two things: that tax players mid level exception. The Knicks still have, I think there's 7 million under the second cap, second apron. The mid level taxpayer is about 5 million.
Mhm.
So they could potentially use that mid level tax exception and sign a player for 5 million. They just signed Precious for 6 million. The thinking is they're gonna combine whoever they sign with this plus Achua, have about 11 million for a trade somewhere down the line in January. So because that's when Achua will be eligible to be traded.
Right.
So we'll talk about the mid level first. See if there's any guys we like. Any guys that's worth, you know, giving that 5 million, maybe even paying extra for, just so we have that salary code. And then we'll talk about January and some of the potential trade targets down the line.
Okay.
Let me find the list again. I know you had it up as well.
Mhm.
Well, a couple guys I know off the jump that I was going to talk about. Isaac Okoro. I mean, he's arguably right now considered the best remaining free agent. I don't think he's a real viable option, only because I think he ends up re-signing with the Cavs. I think they have his cap hold at higher than the 5 million, so he could potentially just sign his qualifying offer and make more
Right.
than the taxpayer mid level. Um, so I don't know if you really want to deep dive into him at all. Um,
Nah, I don't think he's an option unless he just decides that, he want to stick it to he wants
yeah,
to stick it to Cleveland and take the mid-level exception somewhere because he feel like they playing around.
yeah, I'm done with this team, something
Yeah.
like that.
But other
Um,
than that, I don't see it.
and from a Knicks perspective, I mean, he probably isn't getting the time. I mean, one good thing about him is he would fit for the simple fact that his defense could keep him on the floor enough. We just talked about Josh Hart, comparison. I think he would be similar, most similar to Josh Hart on his team.
Right.
Not the greatest shooter, good defender, um, good athlete, things like that. But yeah, I would pass on him, and I don't think it's very likely. Um, I'm gonna just throw names out there until I find that list again.
Okay.
Um, and any name you want to throw out there, by all means. So next, I got Lonnie Walker. Still relatively young. Played his best basketball, I think, last year in Brooklyn. Good athlete. What is he, like 25 years old? I think. Um, Improved his shooting. Not a great shooter.
Mhm.
Upped his defense. Again, he's a guy that I don't think would play though. It would have to take some, injuries or something to happen for him to play. But what's your thoughts on him?
I like Lonnie Walker. I mean, kind of what I'm thinking with the mid-level exception. I mean, to your point, the Knicks want to sign someone, so at the trade deadline, they can, put him in a trade. The Knicks are under the second apron, so they can still aggregate contracts in a trade. And so you do want to have players, one, that are under contract, and two, that other teams may want, right? But I'm also thinking, in addition to that, I want those players are going to be situational. And so they're out of the rotation unless there's an injury. And the better situational players you have, the more you've kind of, set yourself up for continued success if there's an injury, right? So if one of our rotation guys go down for a few games or a few months, God forbid, and you have to bring in Lonnie Walker, I think you're doing good. You're doing real good. So um, yeah, I'm good with him. Will he want to? Well, the money is drying up right now, so he probably would be okay with 5 million.
Um,
But yeah, I'm good with Lonnie Walker.
um, First off, Peace Sim was good.
What's going on?
Welcome back.
Appreciate it.
We talking about potential taxpayer mid level exception signings. So about 5 million, the remaining free agents. Who could we use? Potentially as a roster spot, but mainly as a throw in to combine salaries with Precious down the line for, I'm assuming, a center, a backup center. That's the biggest position in need right now.
Right.
Um, we just talked about Lonnie Walker. What's your thoughts on him? But before you go, Sim, let me ask you, Queen. Do you consider him a two, or would you consider him a potential backup point guard or ball handler?
Nah, I see him as a wing player.
A wing.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your thoughts on Lonnie Walker? Sim.
Yeah, I've always liked Lonnie Walker. You know what I mean? I think he was drafted to the Spurs first, right?
Yeah.
And I thought Pop was gonna unlock that kid to be a star for real. That's what I thought. But I agree with Steph. He would be a great guy. If you have him, I mean, I'm assuming he would be a situational player if he were brought to the team. But if you have Lonnie Walker as a situational player, I mean, would he accept that kind of role? I don't know. But if you have him coming off the bench, if one of those guys got hurt, I mean, how can you go wrong
Right.
with that? You know what I mean? I don't know if you can go wrong with that because he can come in and score for you. He would, I'm sure, buy into what this team is about, and might even help him to grow. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would definitely welcome Lonnie Walker on this team if he would accept that kind of role.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the question because the team is stacked full of players. Like I'm not even sure where how the whole campaign is working right now. Then if you bring in another wing player, they definitely are going to be. There's a chance that they're situational. A big chance that they're situational right now. Depending on with the type of players that you're able to bring in. So, I don't know. I'm interested in that whole campaign situation too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm hoping, to be honest. Obviously, Tibbs has his pecking order, but I'm just hoping it really becomes a competition for every, every open spot, like we got 2 rows open competition to see who gets it.
You said there's two roles that are open.
I'm saying hypothetically,
Oh.
you know what I mean? Like we have 2 rows available. Like these rows are set, but we got this spot and this spot open. Let's see who earns it. Who who gets it out. I'm assuming nobody.
Point guard and backup center. Is that what you're
Yeah,
referring?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what roles would be open though.
I mean,
now if Tibbs is going 10 deep, I don't know. I don't know which positions are open besides backup center. That might be open. I don't know what other positions are open in that second unit because there's none open in the first unit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But
opinion,
to me, I think it is backup center. Backup point guard, because even though the rumors are out there, the speculations out there, we still can't wrap our head around is Tyler ahead of everybody else as that backup point guard? You know what I mean? Like, is he going over Tyler over campaign as that? You know what I mean? Like the same things that intrigue you. And then my question about like a Lonnie Walker, is he, now granted he's not a point guard, but is he better than some of the guys currently on this roster or in the rotation? So could a guy that we sign at a mid-level exception fight for actual rotation spots or just surpass somebody in a pecking order? That's the kind of thing that I'm wondering about.
I think this. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This brings me up. I was going to talk about this when I talked about the Nova Knicks. I'm not sure. Like, say for example, DiVincenzo, and don't get me wrong, DiVincenzo has earned his spot. To me, he's an NBA starter who's obviously has to go to the bench, at least in my opinion, with Mikal Bridges. But his minutes to me is not even up for debate, given his relationship with Brunson, given the Nova Knicks. So my to your point is, if Lonnie Walker came in here and just had a out of this world training camp, I still don't think he would beat out DiVincenzo.
I agree.
Yeah. You're right. It would have to be a circumstance that got him in first.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because that's usually how it happens. Somebody goes down. You know what I mean? You get your opportunity, and then you make the most of your opportunity. But even with that, you know what I mean? Tibbs he don't let injuries, you know what I mean, make you lose your starting spot or lose your rotation spot. For the most
Well,
part,
with Hartenstein, it did.
yeah, but that you talking about a 50 game, you know what I mean, a large span.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? 2 weeks down, you're not gonna lose your spot in 2 weeks, no
Gotcha.
matter how good your replacement played.
Right.
All right.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. This is kind of non-related, but go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I know exactly where I'm
I
going.
just wanted to clear something up. I didn't have no surgery. I just been taking a break, clear my mind.
Oh,
No.
I
Did you talk about
I
Jericho?
thought you were talking about Jericho as well.
No. That's why I said go ahead. Because when you talk about Jericho, when you talking about me? Because
Well,
the reason why I asked that is because it came right. Someone said, no, here, this one right here said Sim had surgery. That's what
okay.
Oh,
No, okay, so
So he was correcting himself.
Jericho Sims. Yeah, because I didn't have surgery of any kind. So want to make sure that's cool.
That was
He was talking about Jericho Sims. All right, cool. All right, cool.
They see you lost weight. They thought you got your abs done like Drake.
Right.
No BBL Sim.
And that came on the back because Hit 'Em Up said, Sim was on a hiatus, and then Nostalgic Nick said Sim had surgery. Then he said Sims had surgery. So he was talking about Sims. All right, cool. I didn't have surgery.
And he said recently, I mean, just to keep it on Sims, I thought I don't know when he had surgery, but I thought they're saying like this is the first time he's coming into training camp healthy. So if I don't know when he had surgery, but the reports have been, you see him working with oh man, what's this guy's name? The old point guard.
Oh, Bibby.
You see him working out with Bibby. And they're like, this is the first time he's actually been able to train and prepare for the season. His previous 2 years, he was dealing with injuries coming into the season. So just a little tidbit, you know what I mean? Maybe he has an improvement this year and earn some time.
I've been seeing videos of him working out, post moves, turnaround jump shots, things like that. You know what I mean? We'll see. Does it translate? Because, right now the Knicks are going to need his size. I mean, besides Mitchell Robinson, everybody else is 6'8" or below.
Yeah.
Facts.
So, they might need, he's 6'10", they might need his size.
Yeah.
The next guy on my list, and this is a guy I'm actually high on as far as accepting the role, whatever it be, you know what I mean, whether it's playing or not, but also being able to step in and fill some minutes if somebody goes down. Older guy, 33 years old, Robert Covington. He can still shoot the ball, man. You know what I mean? 6'7", 7'2" wingspan. I think that's a guy that in spurts, in minutes, in a limited role or in a replacement role could fill in. OG's gonna miss some time for sure. We do have Bridges, but I'd rather keep Bridges playing the two and guarding up or down, and then having another guy next to him at times, and Robert Covington who could play the 3 or 4, you know what I mean, and be able to guard up or down as well. I think he's definitely in that $5 million price range. Is not much of an overpay, if anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've always liked Robert Covington. But especially now on the downside of his career, where the money's not going to be, 10 plus million. I think he could definitely fill a role for us. What's your guys' thoughts on Rocco?
I think he'd be, he's a defender because at the very least he can come in and fill a role playing defense. you know, with because I believe he's like 6'7", 6'8" too, right? Robert Covington, you know, so he could,
Yeah, 6'7".
yeah, at least fill that role, playing some defense, maybe knocking down the corner three, because you know that's basically been what he is, a 3-and-D guy, you know. So he, you know, he I think he'd be a good guy to come in and help fill that role if OG went down. Hopefully, you know, Bridges won't go down, but if either one of those guys went down for a period of time, you know, he could come in and fill that role a little bit. If OG goes down, you figure Mikal Bridges probably moves into that slot, and then DiVincenzo steps into the starting lineup. You know, and then Covington might, you know, be able to fill something on the bench. You know, fill a role on the bench. So yeah, I think that'd be a solid vet to bring in.
Quinn,
Yeah, I'm okay with him. I used to like him a lot. I'm not sure how much he has left. I haven't seen him in a while. I think he did play some minutes with Philly when he came over last season.
he
Um,
played a lot more with the Clippers than with Philly. I think his role was actually reduced a large portion in Philly compared to his role. Like he was vital to him, and I think Batum definitely played more than him. You know what I mean? Like I thought he was kind of lost in the, you know what I mean, lost in the rotation in Philly. I don't recall seeing him too much. You know what I mean? But I do know last year or last year prior to, he played a lot more for the Clippers and was vital still in you know, in his limited role. Him and Batum, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
so, but
He's
yeah,
not in my top 5, but if the Knicks signed him, I would be okay with him. I've always liked his game.
all right. I got the full list up now. Quinn, I know you had it up for, you know what I mean, you had it for a while. And anybody you want to pinpoint or point at out of the remaining free agents?
Yeah, it's a few. I'm not sure how much he has left though. Jay Crowder, I think would fit. He would definitely be somebody who could be a situational player that would step in. Though I know there was some concern that he wanted to play. I think it was in Milwaukee, wherever his last stop was.
Milwaukee and his previous stop. He
Yeah,
held out at the previous stop
right.
because he wasn't going to have the role.
Yeah. So I don't know how happy he would be being situational, but I like his fit on the Knicks as a situational player.
Yeah, my only concern would be that part. If you had a problem in, was it Phoenix
Yeah.
or wherever it was, and then you had the problem in Milwaukee, we don't need no type of negative energy, cancers, any potential. You know what I mean? So he might have shot himself in the foot with his behavior his last two spots, even though it wasn't anything outrageous. Yeah, we don't need any of that. But as a player and just a player and the money, I think yeah, I look at him very similar to Covington. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
How many roster spots we have right now, Phil?
I think just
Open.
I think just
One.
one, I think.
yeah, because the two-way doesn't count, right?
Right. They signed
That
McCullough today. So I don't know if you've heard to a two-way. That was
To a
the last
two-way.
rookie.
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's one spot still.
Yeah. So I think they're gonna do what they've done over the last few years. Leave the roster spot open and let them battle it out in training camp and see if someone can step up from, you know, one of those two-way players, you know, prove that they deserve to be on the team. And then if nobody steps up and proves that they deserve to be on the team, then maybe go out and sign somebody, you know, to a vet minimum or use the MLE. I mean, it's not necessary that they use it, right?
The only reason they would potentially need to use it is to combine salaries
Salaries
with Precious,
trade.
you know, later down the road.
Right.
But I'm assuming they could use that money at any time. So it could be January. If they hadn't used it, they could use
Right.
that money then,
Use that
sign
money.
the person
Right.
then, and then, oh, But
They can't do a sign
no,
and
you can't sign exactly. So they do need to do it now, so they're under contract and available to be traded.
Right, because they wouldn't be, you got what, 60
6
days or
months.
whatever, 6 months or whatever after you get signed. Yeah,
Yeah.
before you can.
can't do a sign.
So yeah, they actually would need to do that. What's today's date? By tomorrow. They would
By
have
the
to
trade
do that.
deadline tomorrow is 6 months.
Yes, I believe it's the 7th.
Okay.
So you got to get them in by the 6th. Or actually, it's the day of. So if it's the 7th, then it's the 7th. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you could do it that same day, the 7th. So they, you know what I mean? They probably would have to make that decision. Now I did have somebody in the chat threw a couple names out. Shout out to the coolest 718. He got Amani Bates. I'm gonna go one by one.
Yeah.
If it was a guy, if it was a guy we needed for a two-way, I would love Amani Bates. You know what I mean? If it was a guy we needed, you know what I mean, like just to kind of nurture and potentially have him for ourselves down the line, I would love Amani Bates. I don't know how much. That's a huge overpay, I think, right now, the $5 million. But I mean, I do like him. I would like him. Huh?
I think you could split that mid level.
Oh, can you?
I don't
Okay.
think you have to. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think you have to.
I think you are right. I think you are right. What's your guys' thoughts on Monty Bates?
I don't remember him.
Yeah,
He's young. I'm assuming. I didn't even think his rookie contract was up, but if he a free agent, it must be. He's a young guy. He's a young guy, potential. It's like he's real slim. I think they compared him to. Well, I'm not even gonna give that comparison. That's gonna be bad. But he's
Jarrell
a young.
said get Bates, so he's up on the college players and young
What
players.
What Jarrell say?
He said get Bates. So
Get Bates. Okay. I mean, he's young with potential, but I would like him for ourselves as opposed to you know what I mean. Trade Jordan Narwa. I know the name. I know he's an energy guy.
he can play.
But
he can score.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's a thumbs up for.
That would be a thumbs up for me.
TJ Thor. If this is the Thor that was in the Olympics with South Sudan, I'm with it. I don't know if that's the same Thor.
I think he played with Charlotte. It might be.
I mean, he's been balling out there in Sudan in the Olympics. He tall. I'm sure he got a 7-foot wingspan.
The coolest
Still kind of raw. That.
No, the coolest said yes, it is him.
Okay. Damian Jones. That's a pass for me. We spoke on Lonnie Walker, and I'm not familiar with Moses Brown. You guys know who Moses Brown is?
He's okay. Didn't he have a cup of coffee with the Knicks?
Brown.
He's a center. He's a center. I think he played a little at OKC. I think he was with us for
he might have been. I remember the name. Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah. Well, you know who we not talking about that I think
Who's
would
that?
be a value pick? Markel Fultz is still out there. We don't need another point guard. But when you're talking about value,
yeah, right.
You're talking about value.
Why is he still out there?
I don't know. He's still out there.
He was with Orlando last year and had a decent season.
Yeah.
He might beat out everything. If it was
and that's where I was just about to go, Queen. We was just saying like somebody who could potentially beat out some of the guys on this back end of the roster rotation. I agree.
You just roll the ball out and just said we taking the top whatever 2 at each position. He might.
The good thing about him is, and might be why he's still in the league, right? you never heard any negative about him personality wise. You know what I mean? Like you've never heard anything negative about, I don't want to say work ethic, but everything's been like culture guy or positive player. You know what I mean? Positive personality. So I think that gives the Knicks more incentives to give this guy a chance than some of the other young guys with potential, because it's always been some kind of background thing that I'll be like, yeah, I love to give a chance, but the Knicks ain't doing that. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
mean,
you
he
know that from
played.
the jump.
I mean, if it might be the injury history, but when he was healthy, he played for Orlando, and I believe he started. If I'm not mistaken, he at least was in the rotation when he was
He was
healthy.
definitely in a rotation.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
think he lost his starting job after injury, but you know what I mean? He did get injured last year. He started the season starting,
Hmm.
and you know, I think he went back to the bench after the injury when he came back from the injury. But yeah, he played well, even though he had another injury. This wasn't like a season ending one. You know what I mean? Like, so he was able to bounce back from the injury this year as well. I think a lot of times in the past, injuries kept him out towards the end of the year. So even though he was injured, he still had one of his best seasons last year. Um, yeah, I think that's a
Yeah,
that's a good.
the big thing definitely with Fultz and his team, agents and man, all of that, they're not going to want him to be situational.
Right. Correct.
You can guarantee that. It would be great to have Markel Fultz as your third string point guard, but
Right.
they're not going to want him to be situational.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He has mad talent, and they're going to want him to go someplace where he can have a chance at starting, or at the very least be the backup.
Yeah. I agree.
You know.
I agree.
If it's relayed that it is an open opportunity, though, does
So
that
so
motivate him?
so who would be battling out for that backup point guard spot?
Tyler Kolek,
Tyler
cam,
Kolek,
campaign,
Anthony,
and
McBride.
him. I mean, I don't know
They don't see
if
McBride as a point guard though, but
that and that. Yeah, that's once they said that, I don't think, I think they put that out there
right.
intentionally. You
So
know what I
so
mean?
so
Like
so then where does Deuce? So then okay, we'll come back to Markel Fultz, right? So then where does Deuce fit in? Because if they see
that's
him as an off guard, you got Dante DiVincenzo, you got
mm,
Josh Hart. Are you playing Deuce too?
Sam, why you coming on the show starting stuff? Whenever we bring up
Right.
Miles McBride is
Mm.
the third string shooting guard, and he may get 10 to 12 minutes. The chat gets up, as my grandmother could say, in a tizzy. You know what I mean? But if he's not backing up Brunson, it's gonna be hard for him to
It's
get
gonna be
minutes.
yeah.
that's the $1 million question.
That's what's yeah.
But I don't think that was put out there as, you know what I mean? Like I think that was a legit Knicks letting that be known. You know what I mean? I don't think that was made up. That the Knicks view him more as a two.
Yeah.
And,
That's
and
yeah. It makes it tough because then that says, okay, well, then Kolek or Campaign is going to be the backup point guard. I believe it'll be Campaign because, you know,
veteran.
yeah, Tibbs wants you to prove it first. That's just it. Prove it in the game first. You know what I mean? Then we'll see what you can do for the most part. Um, so it'd be Campaign, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, um, Precious. I mean, I guess there is another spot for a small guard because that's all we got left,
I
right?
I think I think I think Tibbs is going 9, and I think somebody from that starting unit is gonna
Gonna
probably
play. Yeah.
run with the second unit. Otherwise, if you're going 10, that means Hart is stuck behind Randall in the Obi Toppin minute 17. Um, Devo is stuck behind Bridges in whatever minutes is left. So that's why I do think they'll probably go 8 or 9 just so those guys can get some minutes. Probably 9.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more logical to not even look to only look at bigs? I mean, it's very few bigs available right now. That you know how to say the guy's name, Queen. So I'll let you bring that guy up.
The one that played for Miami, I like him. Omar Yurtseven as
Mhm.
a situational
Mm.
guy. I you know why I like him? I like his skill set. I like his skill set. He's a
Does he
guy.
remind you of anyone?
He reminds me of Hart. He reminds me of Hartenstein a little bit in terms of his skill set. Obviously, he would need to grow in that position, but when he's played for Miami, he gave them good minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, shout out to I forgot who, somebody mentioned him a couple weeks ago on my show I did with Eru, and I wasn't really familiar with him. Eru knew him right off the jump, but I did my research afterwards and watched a bunch of videos and how I'm like, man, he definitely reminds me of iHeart, and potentially, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that could be a perfect fit, you know what I mean? If he gets the opportunity. I did want to highlight. Oh man, did I lose it? Somebody in here mentioned. Oh, here we go. The coolest again. T.J. Warren and the Morris brothers. I think we spoke about the Morris brothers before we went live.
Yeah.
And T.J. Warren. I don't know how old he is, but
He's not old.
he's relatively young. I know he has a lot of injury history or whatever. But when he shined in the league, he was shining in the league. You
And
know
he
what I
didn't
mean?
get an opportunity after the injuries, really. I
He
don't
did it.
know.
He did it. But yeah, I mean, I think the role, you don't got to worry about him complaining about the role. He's kind of been in this spot. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Obviously, if there was a definitive role for him, he would be signed right now. You know what I mean? Somebody would have picked him up. I could see him running with that backup unit though. Like just because I think he's a wing, you know what I mean? Like he could play probably the 3 or the 4. So I could see him fitting in right with whomever if he gets the opportunity. But do we want to take a chance on another injury prone player at all?
Right.
I
He was
mean,
healthy last season, though, right?
yeah.
Where was he last year?
Brooklyn?
Was it
Was it
Brooklyn?
Brooklyn?
Let me check. Might have been.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen him play in a long time. I just remember when I seen him play, he was balling.
Yeah, I agree. He played for Minnesota was the last team,
It's Minnesota. Okay.
and he's just 30.
TJ Warren is only 30.
30. He been in the league for 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously injury prone, but he don't got a lot of wear and tear.
Right. I mean, I guess the thing would be, you're not really relying on him that much, right? If you're Tom Thibodeau, you're not relying on him that much. So, about him being injury prone, I mean, if he was a starter or just a more than a situational player, then you might be concerned. But I don't think Tom Thibodeau would be counting on him that much.
No.
What do you think his deficiencies are? Like I don't know. Is he a bad defender or is his defense been questionable?
I thought he was a good defender. When he played with Indiana, I thought he was like that was part of
That was
what the
his.
team was made of, right? And I thought he was a good defender.
Yeah. Maybe he lost the step coming back from injury.
Right.
That's possible too.
Right.
And the last guy, unless you guys want to add anybody, Queen, you mentioned him when we were offline, and I don't think we brought him up. Tucker.
Tyler Horton.
Yeah, Tyler
Yeah,
Horton Tucker.
Oh,
he's young too.
I don't want to.
Where is 25
I don't even
or
think
24?
something.
24, right? I think yeah, they say he the oldest 24-year-old. Looking another guy who, when he balled for the Lakers. I don't think he's really had that type of impact since being
Right.
traded from the Lakers. I think he's 6'4", so definitely more of a two guard. So he's not, you know what I mean? We talk about the minutes and everything. I don't know how much opportunity he gets, but I think he's definitely a viable trade option down the line where some teams will still have interest in him at his age,
About it.
being able to re-sign him and things like that. Any thoughts on Tucker?
I don't really have anything to add to what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only thing about
23, Tony.
23,
23. I mean, that's younger than some guys on the team. You know what I mean? Same age as some rookies on our team. If you wanna, you know what I mean? Keep it 100.
yeah. The only thing about it would be, again, with signing any, guard is there's so many guards on the team already.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to transition into into the potential targets come January. You know what I mean? Because like I said earlier, the thinking is to combine Precious contract with whoever we sign at this taxpayer mid level. So that brings us to about 5. If we give them the full mid level, that's 5 plus 6, that's 11. We still have also that trade exception at 5 million that I believe we can combine as well, which could get us all the way up to about 16 million for potential trade target. So I want to look at some centers and potentially who we could be targeting in January from anywhere to 10 million to maybe 15 million. Let me see. I gotta find my list now. I've been moving all over on my phone. But any centers you guys got your eye on, whether we spoke about them or not. Obviously, we spoke on Kessler. We spoke on Richards.
Those are my two right there.
Those are your two. Let me see if I can find this list again.
But those are the two I would like.
I mean, those are relatively cheaper options. So I think those guys are, as long as they're not moved, I think they are possible. You say you don't think we get them?
Yeah,
what?
I mean, for because I'm not sure if Richards is available,
Okay.
and so things can change over time, and I'm not sure we have enough assets for Kessler. Reports are they turned down 2 number 1 picks. Now I don't know if those were the 2 Knicks
Protected picks.
Is that what it was? Okay.
It never was specified, but that was my thinking from the beginning. Because that didn't come out of Utah, that came out of New York.
Okay.
Right? So, obviously, how I think wording and reporting is so important. I think they word things specifically the way they do intentionally, so it doesn't have to be debunked. You know what I mean? Or if you try to debunk it, now we could clarify and be like, no, I was telling the truth. I just, you know what I mean? I didn't say which picks, but I think they were vague on purpose.
I mean, I think Kessler would be probably a perfect fit for this team. I don't think we need. Me personally, I don't want more of the same. That was the whole purpose of Hartenstein.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He provided something a little bit different so you can change up, you can change things up in the way that you play. So to bring in more of the same, you got Jericho Sims if you're gonna bring in more of the same. You know what I mean? So, I'd be looking for something that's just a little different, someone who could do a little bit more, in the way that they play. Obviously still play defense, protect the rim, but be able to shoot the ball, pass a little bit, do some things like that.
Yeah.
Where do you get it? I don't know.
Kessler, I believe, to Queen's point, I think he's the least likely. I shouldn't even say least likely because he's so small of a salary. What I'll say is these moves, the pressures, the signing the mid level, none of that affects. You know what I mean? We don't have to do any of that to go after Kessler, because his salary is so small. It's not going to require these larger contracts or aggregating contracts, or combining all these things, because he's only at about 3 million. It's really about giving up that value that Danny Ainge wants for him. But as far as high on the list, he's probably, like Queen said, him, Richards, I think those guys are probably higher on the list. But let's go through. I'm gonna name these centers. I'm gonna name what they made last year. We're gonna talk about potential fit or not. Can you see it? Can it work or not? I'm gonna start with Steven Adams. I think he missed all of last year with an injury. He should be back and ready to go for the beginning of the season. He was at 12 million last year. Let's say it goes up a couple million. Maybe it's at 13, 15 this year. Veteran presence, strong guy, definitely fits the bill as far as a rebounder. One block a game. So he he could potentially protect the rim, or at least be a deterrent if not getting the block itself. Doesn't really change the dynamic, like Sim was speaking of giving us something different. But definitely veteran presence, which Tibbs seems to like. What's your thoughts on Steven Adams down the road, coming as the backup center, or potentially starting if Mitch goes down?
Listen, I agree with some. I think Hartenstein spoiled me a little bit. That I'm really over the rim running kind of one dimensional centers. So obviously, if we have to replace Mitch, I like Steven Adams for that. But my um, preference would be somebody with a little offense in their game, or at least can swing the ball when it gets to them. Can swing it to the next person and not have to hold it to the
Mm-hmm.
person come back and get it from them. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, if Mitch goes down, and I like Steven Adams, but it doesn't give us the versatility we're going to need in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The next guy, I think this is going to be a hard pass. For me, because of the same reasons you just mentioned, as far as that versatility we won't be getting with this guy. But the biggest reason I'm a pass on him is because it's another injury prone center, Robert Williams, Time Lord. If he was healthy, you know what I mean? Sure, I love him, even though he doesn't bring a different dynamic. It's almost identical to Mitch with the numbers: 8 points per game, 8 rebounds. You got an assist, a block, 74% from the field goal percentage, but 35 games played. Yeah, so that's a hard pass. I'm sure you guys agree, so I'm not even gonna get your opinion. Next guy though, Kevon Looney. We've heard talks about that trade or trade for him earlier this offseason, but now potentially not giving up, Mitchell Robinson, not giving up, maybe even Deuce McBride, I would be more inclined for this move if we're talking about like Precious and whoever we get at this mid level. Then I would be giving up a rotational piece for him. So adding him to the rotation as opposed to swapping him with a rotational piece, I think I would like Kevon Looney. I think he would fit perfectly. Low usage, you know what I mean, but just does so much. He brings you so much different dynamic. Can pass the ball. We talk about what we got with Hartenstein. I mean, two assists per game, but we know playing in that Golden State system, he knows how to move the ball, how to get the ball out to the open guy, the shooter, the cutter, all that. Yeah, I would love Kevon Looney. What are you guys' thoughts on him?
I mean, the thing about Kevon Looney is
and he's only about $8 million.
$8 million. He's he's experienced, won championships, played with stars, so he's he's been part of a process, seen a process. You know what I mean? So I think that would be a big plus for Looney, right? He's just an experienced veteran that understands what needs to be done, understands, will understand his role, is not going to expect more than what is given to him, because he's played with stars, right? Super duper stars. So, he could be a good fit. He could definitely be a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if he's not a great offensive player, he can move the ball. He can pass the ball. And that helps. And he's a really good offensive rebounder as well. So that kind of fits into how we already,
right.
How we already play. I think he's 6'9", something like that.
Yeah,
let me see it.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, they don't have it listed where I'm reading from, but yeah, I believe he's at least 6'9".
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'd be a nice backup guy at that position.
Yeah, he's 6'9".
And like I said earlier, if we're doing this and not giving up anybody that's potentially already in our rotation, I love it even more. I don't remember what the exact trade scenario was this reported earlier or speculated earlier, but I wasn't going for it. Whatever it was losing to me a vital piece. And I could see, if Sims shows any type of growth, I could see Golden State being interested in Sims and kind of having a young guy in replace of Kevon Looney, and we getting a veteran guy in you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of almost like I could see that helping both teams. Longevity for Golden State, getting a guy like Sims and Precious, whatever, and if they see the value in these guys and having them long term, and then obviously Kevon Looney, an older guy, less long term future. Any concerns with him injury wise? I think he's kind of had the injury bug throughout the years. Kevon Looney? Yeah.
I don't know if we were. Is he injury prone though?
I'm not really sure, but I know he's played through a lot of injuries. Let's say that.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about that.
Yeah, me either. I wouldn't be concerned, especially his usage isn't going to be as high. So I think you, I think you mitigate some of that concern, because it's usage. As long as he's the type of player that while he's not playing as much, is still going to stay in shape, right? Because if he's not gonna, stay in shape, then you'd be concerned about him, when he does get on the floor getting injured. But as long as but again, he's a vet, so I think he understands how to do it.
Next guy I got is Wendell Carter Jr. He's at about 13, 14 million. Definitely. I mean, I know he's another injury guy, but you know what I mean? Like, he can produce 15 points a game, 7 rebounds. Maybe that's a little bit, maybe we want a little bit more from him, but the boy can pass the ball, 2.3 assists, half a block per game. Played 57 games last year. So again, what's your thoughts on Wendell Carter Jr.?
I like Wendell Carter Jr. I do. I mean, I think he'd be great. He'd be great.
Yeah.
And he might even end up being your starter one day. I mean, you know what I mean? He'd be great. The Knicks could pull off and get Wendell Carter Jr. I think he'd be a perfect fit for this team in the way that he can play, in his style of play.
Yeah. And he can also, like if he was on our team last year and Randall went down, he could step in and be a full-time power forward.
Full-time power forward, exactly.
And produce.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He'd be perfect. He'd be like a younger Todd. I mean, not a younger Taj Gibson when he was younger.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He'd be like that for this team. He'd be able to play multiple roles. He can, he'd be something like that. I think Tom Thibodeau would love him.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say, well, Thibodeau would love him if you're giving him the Taj stamp of approval. Let's see who else we got here. I'm not going to talk about Bobby Portis, even though I do think it was intriguing. I just don't see Milwaukee moving him.
Right.
Especially he's probably been one of the most consistent guys on their team over the past 3 or 4 years. So I just don't see it as an option. We spoke on Kessler. Clint Capella, I'm just gonna give a hard pass. I will say this though. He's at 20 million. So even if we did the trade exception plus Precious plus whoever we signed at the mid-level, that's still not equaling 20 million. So now we're still talking about dipping into, was it either Deuce McBride? So now that's 4 players for one. You know what I mean? Like I didn't like it earlier because of who we would have to give up to get him. You know what I mean? Starting with like Mitchell Robinson. To me, that's a parallel move. At best.
He's healthy though.
So he's healthy now.
Does he have a health history?
He's definitely. I mean, he played 65 games last year, but I think he's missed a lot of time over the years.
Okay.
And he's not 30 yet. Okay. I didn't realize he wasn't. I thought he was definitely 30. I don't want to talk about trading Mitchell Robinson, so that's why I wasn't down for it. That's why I wasn't down for it earlier. I still think it's hard to get up to that $20 million salary without including somebody who's definitively in our rotation.
But this is the thing, Tony. What's best for the Knicks? I mean, listen, as much as like we're trying to construct trades without Mitchell Robinson, without Miles McBride, without this player, without that, at the end of the day, we have to do what's best, and the Knicks front office has to do what's best for the Knicks. If a trade comes up for Miles McBride and he's out with, let's just say they decided that he's not going to be the backup point guard.
Mm-hmm.
If they make that decision, now he's a third string 2 guard. If you have an opportunity to get a backup center or even a starting center, you wouldn't include Miles McBride in the trade because he's talented and he plays good defense, which he does, and his shooting is good, which is really important. I mean, you have to think about where he fits in the rotation against what we need at the time.
I mean, I just don't know if let's do the math. I would include Miles McBride. Like let's see.
I'm
You
not
got
saying I would do it for Clint Capella, but I'm just saying as a general framework.
But no, yeah, I'm never doing that. And when I do, I admit my bias every time. You know what I mean? Like so if I'm like, yo, I don't want to do it because of Mitchell Robinson, like I will stand on why I'm saying it. You know what I mean? I won't. But like Deuce McBride, he's at what 4 million now or 5?
5, I think.
So he's at
4.7, I
5.
believe, something like that.
The trade exception's 5. I guess we could do it now. You know what I mean? 6 for Precious, 5 for the trade exception, 5 for the mid level, 5 for Miles McBride. So we can't get to that 20 million and not. I mean, Deuce would be the only rotational, I'm putting quotes up, guy that we would give up. And if it's that, I don't mind it. I think that would help because now you're talking about the only difference is like Sim's point. He's not a change. He's not changing the dynamic of that center position. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of just stabilizing it. You know what I mean? Because definitely double guy, definitely rebound machine, definitely protects the rim. You know what I mean? It's just 2 guys now that we're hoping could stay healthy, injury free. But yeah, I wasn't with it for a swap with Mitchell Robinson personally.
Okay.
I mean that you know what I mean, that's just me being honest. I guess since we're on it, would you guys swap Mitchell Robinson and Precious, or let's say Mitchell Robinson and Deuce, or even Mitchell Robinson and the trade exception? Would you do that for Clint Capella like right now?
I would because of the health. That would be it.
Mhm.
I hear what you're saying in terms of the type of center, they're similar. So it's
Mhm.
still going to be the same issues on the offensive end, but I think he has a less of an injury history than Mitchell Robinson. I
Yes.
think that would be it for me.
Sam, I'm gonna let you start answer this guy just because he definitely gives us a change of what we're used to at that center position. Um, and I think I got him as the thumbnail. Valachunas
Hmm.
makes about 15 million. 14 points, 10 rebounds, 1.8 assists last year, which that's a high number. I did surprise me. Played 79 games last year. Could stretch the floor.
Right.
0.7 blocks. I don't know how much of a rim protector he is or defender he is. But if we're bringing him alongside Mitchell Robinson, as opposed to again a swap, I think I would do that.
Uh, so he's backing up or starting?
I don't think it would matter. I mean, we wouldn't be getting him until January, so I don't think he would come in and start
So
unless in January Mitch is down. You know what I mean? But
With-
if
with
Mitch
Ant-
started up until January, I would think he continues to start.
right. Who did he sign with?
He's still under contract with the Hawks. Oh no, I'm sorry. He re-signed.
He re-signed with New Orleans.
Yes,
Did he?
I
Um,
believe so.
I know he signed a contract, but I don't think it was with New Orleans.
Oh shoot. Let's see. Click here. I mean, right now they got him. They got him. Where I'm reading, they got him with New Orleans. Chat. Oh, somebody said the Wizards. Yep, it is the Wizards.
Oh, okay.
It is the Wizards.
That's okay. Yeah, so he signed because I was actually
Well, that would be January. Come January.
right. So he signed for 9.5 with the Wizards.
Oh, that's it.
Mm.
Yep. He's 9.5 this season, 10 million next season, and 10 million in 26-27. Because
I mean, that makes it even better.
the reason why I was asking that is because I remember when he signed. I just didn't remember who he signed with, but I remember when he signed, and I was like, man, I thought the Knicks were gonna look his way. You know, that's pretty. You know, that's a pretty reasonable contract.
For that skill set,
Yeah,
he would
that's
change
pretty-
everything for us in the playoffs.
And I could see that might be that might make the most sense as far as like
Yeah.
the Wizards. You know what I mean? I don't foresee them going anywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm gonna put him very high on the list, probably top 5 on the list at that price. A bunch of different ways to look at it. You could do Precious and the trade exception. You know what I mean? And now you do they get some more cap space. They get relief from cap space. You could do whoever we sign at that mid level plus Precious. The, I guess the best one would probably be the trade exception. This way, we're definitively sending out less than we're receiving because we don't want to put ourselves, what is it, locked at the second apron, the terminology.
Mhm.
I like Valanciunas.
A lot, and he may not start as soon as he come over, but by the time the playoffs start, he might, just because of what he would allow us to do, the space he opens up for guys. We can get back into that pick and roll with him and Brunson. They wouldn't be able to trap Brunson. Oh man, it changes a lot.
Yeah, and I know he averaged, damn near 2 assists last year.
Yeah, and he could hit, and he. I don't want to get him mixed up with the Chicago center. I
I
don't.
was at first.
Yeah, because him. His ability to hit the three, but I don't think 3-point shooting is a part of his game, is it?
I don't think he's like super accurate, but he'll put him up. You know what I mean? Like he's not gonna not shoot it if he's in that position. Chet Holmgren's not going nowhere. Huh. Sangoon, man. He's we talk about pecking order. Was he making like 4 million, 5 million next year, I believe? He's number 1 on my list, man. When that rumor came out, I'm like, I don't know why Houston would even think about moving on from this man. If we would have held on to any of those picks, you know what I mean, in the McCalbert trade, you know what I mean, I would have definitely said, bring that pick, give that pick up. I don't know if we have the assets to get him. As far as like, I would think in a bidding war, they're gonna get some real nice offers for him.
But I think that I thought the front office came out and said that um, they didn't have any intentions of trading him, that they were going to build with him.
Houston, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I mean that makes more sense to me because this kid is young and showing out. You know what I mean? And you don't get that type of skill set at the center position throughout the league like that. Brooke Lopez, that's a hard pass. Plus he's at 25 million. or at least last year he was. I just read Cleveland is somehow for some reason looking to trade Allen, or maybe it was teams are monitoring. I mean, they just signed him 3 years, 91 million.
Right.
And good.
No, finish.
No, I was just gonna say at that money moving forward, I don't know. I don't know who's gonna be willing to. I don't know. I thought that was a overpay. You know what I mean? I understood Hartenstein getting the money because of the circumstances that not only Golden State was in, and they had to pry him from us, so they had to throw in some extra toppings. You know what I mean? To get Hartenstein at that 30 million, but Jarrett Allen at 30 million is I don't know if teams are interested in him after he signed the contract. I could see them interested before. But what were you gonna say, Queen?
Oh, I was gonna say the reason why he may be available is there's a lot of I think a lot of front offices think that that pairing between him and Mobley is not gonna last. And so at some point, um, Jack is gonna have to go because they signed Mobley to a
Yeah,
max
that's true.
extension.
That makes sense. You think he's gonna be easy to move? Knicks aside, I'm not interested per se. Not at that money.
Mm-mm.
The next guy who, and I only got a couple left. I don't know if we could get to 32 million. You know what I mean, to match salaries, and I don't know if I would necessarily want to at 32 million. But that's DeAndre Ayton. Obviously, still young. I mean, he's had what you want to call motor issues, if you want to call it that. Um, the funny thing is, even with the motor issues, like his production has been there throughout. You know what I mean, throughout his career. So my thing is, if he's got motor issues, imagine somebody could unlock that. What can you get from a guy like Ayton? I just think it's far fetched just because it's 30+ million that we got. Like now, you definitely talk about rotational guys to match salaries.
Yeah, I just don't think I would pay that much for a center. Um, unless it's an Embiid or Joker on, on that level. I just wouldn't. So, nah, I wouldn't. It's difficult to match unless you're gonna put Randall in that deal, and that's not something I'd be willing to do.
Queen, you already said you give this guy the thumbs up. Nikola Vucevic, that's the Chicago one.
How much he's making?
Last year he was at 18.
Whew.
You
Yeah,
know what I
he
mean? So
can work with that.
let's say $20 million range. 17 and 11, 3 assists. You know what I mean? 3.2 assists last year. Only shot 52% from the field, but did play all 82 games. I like him too, especially in conjunction combination with Mitchell Robinson, somebody who's given us. So now we have two types of centers. I do agree with you, Sim. Where we we gotta be able to mix it up. You know what I mean, and give that change of pace. The good thing with a guy like Mitch is even if he's coming off the bench or starting, he's gonna bring where he bring. You know what I mean? Like he could fit in either unit. You know what I mean? And then a guy who changes that pace like Hartenstein did
Mhm.
opens up the floor for that starting unit. So it's almost like it works either way.
Yeah,
So
and he could shoot the three.
yeah, a lot better.
Yeah.
um, my last two guys, I think. Let me see, because Bam ain't going nowhere, so we ain't talking about Bam. Wimby ain't going nowhere. We not talking about Wimby. All right. My last two guys, Miles Turner, who I just think is far fetched just because of the success Indiana has had.
Mhm.
But if he was available, he's at, I think his contract descends. So if he was at 20 million last year, I think it's going to be under 20 this year. I remember when he signed that contract, it was front loaded and then descending. I thought it was a great contract that he signed. Great for him, and even better for Indiana. The messed up thing is my last guy is Cat, so I'm gonna actually go in a combination. When we talk about the two of these guys, I would prefer put Turner over Cat just because of the price point, right? It'd be a lot easier to go get Turner and combine him to our current rotation and the guys we got. Where when you talk about Cat, you're definitely you know what I mean. You talking about Randall now
Mhm.
and changing the whole dynamic of this team. When you look at it from that perspective, because I know you're high on you're still high on Cat, right, Queen?
Um, I like Cat. I think that he gets a bad rap. I don't know if I'm ready to trade Randall for Cat, but
Okay.
I'm not one of those that feel like he's soft. Minnesota hasn't gone anywhere with them. He has a terrible playoff. And he has. Hasn't been great in the playoffs, though he was pretty good against, I believe it was Denver this season. I wouldn't trade Randall for him, but at the same time, I'm not down on him like a lot of Knicks fans are.
So the chat is letting me know, which I didn't realize. I knew it was descending. I didn't know it was the last year. Let me give credit where credit is due. Um, well, yeah, expiring at 19 million. Does that change anything? Considering they just played the big bag for Siakam. Maybe Indiana's willing to part with Miles Turner. I mean, I thought he still had a couple years left. At expiring at 19, something probably would have to go wrong with them, right? With how the season's going for. Well, first off, what are your thoughts on Miles Turner? If we could get pursue him,
You think he's come? You think Indiana would trade him to the Knicks? I don't know.
they would probably have to be incentivized. But I mean, to me, we I don't know if they would. I doubt it because of the history and everything. That just us playing each other this year and things like that. But let's just say, just the fit or the thought of the trade, I'm definitely with it. Not the logistics. I don't know if they would do it or not. But
Mhm.
I've said this, in years past. I would prefer Miles Turner over Cat just because of the. I think they similar in what they bring. Obviously, Cat is a better talent, but just because of the price point and him as an expiring, they may be incentivized to get something for him if they don't want to pay him because they're not going to get him at that same deal. You know what I mean? That they re-signed him for earlier a couple years ago.
Mhm.
I would think he wants to pay. You know what I mean? Pay grade, upgrade and pay.
Listen, I like Miles Turner too. Um, you mean giving up Mitchell Robinson for him?
No, I don't think we would have to. I don't think we would have to. I think I think salary wise, we can match it. We can find a way to match it. I think him being expiring, maybe those protected picks that we have available are enough. You know what I mean? Now, if it's a bidding war, we probably can't bid. You know what I mean? If it's an open bidding war, and you know what I mean. But if we could swoop in there, I think we could come up with that 19. You know what I mean? We talked about how we could come up with the 19 to match. So now it's really about, in that 19 that we're matching, do they value a deuce? You know what I mean? Do they value these protected picks? I think we could make that trade happen. And again, if we're giving up non-rotational players, or if Deuce is the only rotational player that we're giving up, I think that's a nice all-in move right there. You know what I mean? He could start, or he could come off the bench. He could play the 4 or 5. So I think he could play alongside Mitchell Robinson if need be.
And then how much pressure would it be on you to have to sign him again?
That's a good question. That's a great question. That is a great question.
You're trading for him in a in a year that his contract expires.
That is a great question. And that's probably the only thing that you know what I mean. But the way I look at that part is, can we win the chip this year? You know what I mean? And if we do, you know what I mean, maybe that buys you the guts to go ahead and say, all right, we're gonna bring this team back moving forward. You know what I mean? Granted, we'll be stuck in that second apron, you know what I mean? Like, for sure. But it would be a this year win now move, and then we answer that question. You know what I mean? Right. Come next offseason.
Right.
The good thing is we would only be losing Deuce as a rotational guy. The bad news is we would be losing all of our assets, you know what I mean, tradable picks moving forward.
Right.
So, but I'm looking at, like, again, I'm mostly looking at him in the comparison with Cat, because if whatever move we did to get Cat, we're done. We don't have nothing left. You know what I mean? There's nothing else left as far as assets, movable assets, and things like that to do. This would be similar, but I think we would still have Randall. We would still have, you know what I mean? We would still have our full team. We wouldn't be giving up rotational guys to make that all-in move. But I just like his fit with this team. I've liked Miles Turner prior to him signing his extension with Indiana. I thought he was on a fair deal. Different dynamic, you know what I mean? And it's like he still defends the rim. He could stretch the floor, but he's a hell of a shot blocker as well. But yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts on Miles Turner. But yeah, that's the biggest question mark. Are we bringing him in to re-sign him moving forward, or is it a 1-year rental? Right. He's from New York too, right?
Is he?
Miles Turner? I don't know.
Maybe not. Pardon me 1 second.
He's from Texas. I think he's from Dallas.
That's right. He's with Julius.
Yeah, I think he's from Dallas. Yeah, but I mean, Miles Turner. My thing is, would Indiana even trade him? Because I mean, you could sign him in off season if he's a free agent, but would Indiana even trade him to the Knicks? Right? Because Indiana's in. I'm pretty sure within a couple of seasons, or maybe even now, they're looking at themselves as a championship contender. Right. So, and he was a big part. He played a big role in them beating the Knicks in the playoffs. So, I don't know if they would look at trading him to the Knicks. I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. Do you think they would? Let's say they know they are going to trade him. Like let's say they know because he's a free agent and they're not looking to re-sign him. They are going to see what they could get from him. Do you still think they'll be like, all right, we know we're gonna move him, but we're leaving, certain teams off our even negotiating list? Or do you think they would be open to trading but not to New York, or do you just think they don't really want to move him and they would want to move forward with him?
I think they would want to move forward with him. But also, if they were going to trade him, I don't think New York's going to be high on their list.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nah, I mean that makes sense. That makes sense. After getting McCall, I mean, granted, we're not talking about 5 picks right now, but after getting McCall and pulling up the trade off, I mean, the last 2 trades, you know what I mean? We talk about Toronto. We didn't think, we thought there was no way Toronto and New York was doing business with an active lawsuit in you know what I mean, in the wind, and then and then the cross river rivals, you know what I mean,
Right.
we haven't traded with them since the 80s or something.
I think I think okay, with Toronto, his lawsuit, this and that. But I think that with both of those teams, they're kind of starting to rebuild too.
That's true. That's
Brooklyn,
true.
sure, in Toronto, looking okay, how do we rebuild where Indiana's rising and probably thinking championship soon, if not now. But because they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but thinking championship, and looking at Knicks as well, this is a team that can get in our way. Do we want to help them get better?
Right. Fair enough. I mean, I agree. It's highly unlikely for a couple of reasons. One, the rivalry between us. I think we would have to incentivize them to do it, which again, that goes back to what you asked originally. Well, are we re-signing him? Because you're not gonna incentivize a team to pull off a trade if he's not in your long-term future. So overall, I think it's a long shot in general of the trade happening. Especially if the Knicks aren't definitively trying to keep him long term. Unfortunately, I gotta go get my daughter. This was a great show, great turnout. Shout out to the chat for tuning in. But just the vibe of us 3 back on screen, we haven't had one of these in a long time. So you know what I mean, like, this lets me know we hear that the season's about to pop back up. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And this again, man. Appreciate you guys and thank you guys for joining me, Sim, Queen, and chat.
Thank you.
For tuning in. I think Sim, you got something going on today or tonight?
Yeah, I'm looking at a time. I'm not exactly sure yet, but it'd probably be before 7.
All right, I let me know. I'll be back on with you, Queen. I don't know if you jumping back on tonight or not. If you let me know, I'll be right. I'll be free. So, but look out for some more MBK fam content. You know what I mean? Dope Soul Sports Talk. MBK is back. Knicks and Bruises. We out of here. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Gotta run, fellas.